Hello, my name's Kingsley Singleton, Deputy Editor of Digital Photo, and welcome to this Photoshop and Elements video lesson. Once you've had a crack at making your own fine art images, there's really only one way to finish them off, and that's with a suitable border or frame. This part of the process is really important because creating an edge to your picture is a neat visual trick that'll very quickly help concentrate the viewer's attention and define the subject, and at the same time make your images seem much more worthy. Think back on your visits to galleries and exhibitions and you'll soon realise that there are very few pictures there displayed without some sort of frame or border. Therefore, if you want your work to look at its best, this is part of your imaging that you need to know how to do the right way. If you're still not convinced of the need for a border, just compare these two separate images of the same subject and you'll quickly see that even though there's only a simple white border that's been added, it has the immediate effect of elevating the photo beyond a snapshot and into the realms of a more considered and well-presented composition. Of course though, as you'll have seen from the first image that I had on screen there, we don't need to stop at a simple white border, we can get really creative with Photoshop's help too. And in this video lesson, you'll see not only how you can add simple borders, but also how you can use more creative options like the templates that are featured on this month's CD, this being one of them. Okay, so to take you through some of the options available, I'm just going to close down our example images right now, and we'll bring up the picture called corridor.jpg onto the screen. And we'll first take a look at how we can add a nice simple border to this image ready for printing. Now the first thing I want to decide is how big I want to print this picture out, and that's going to depend very much on the specification of the printer I'm using. In this case we're going to use an A4 size print as an example, and to make things nice and straightforward, the best thing you can do is start with a fresh, clean A4 size document. To get one, come up to File, down to New, and pick Blank File, or just hit Ctrl and N on the keyboard. Now here it's defaulted to an A4 setting, but if you can't see these measurements, click next to where it says Presets, pick International Paper, and then under Size you'll want to select A4 from the list, or if you want to go a bit larger, A3. What that's going to give us is a picture that's 210mm wide, 297 high, and one that's 300 pixels per inch in resolution. We want the color mode set to RGB color and make sure that the background contents are set to white. Click OK and the new blank document will appear on screen. And then to begin creating our simple border, we want to get our corridor picture onto our nice fresh piece of paper. One of the simplest ways to do that is using the Move tool, which we've already got selected in the toolbox here. Then all you need to do is click and drag the corridor image onto the piece of paper. Make sure you hold down the Shift key as you do though, and it'll turn up right slap bang in the center of the paper. Now this method is dependent on you being able to see both images on screen at the same time. Sometimes you can't when the images are maximized, a bit like this, and you might find that one of the pictures is hiding behind the other. If that's the case, either split them up on screen by coming up to Window, down to Images and picking Float in Window, or we can just click and drag them into the workspace. The other method, as you'll have seen in some of the other video lessons on the CD, is to select everything within your chosen photo using Ctrl and A on the keyboard, then come up to the Edit menu, copy it into the computer's memory using the Copy command, which you can also access by hitting Ctrl and C on the keyboard. Then we'll minimize that, and back on our blank sheet of paper, we can come up to Edit and then down to Paste. That'll get your picture in pretty much the same way. What we need to do next though is resize the image, because at the moment we've got our image on our bit of paper but we've got no border. To resize it, just zoom out a little bit, give yourself a little bit of space around the edge of the canvas, and then press Ctrl and T on the keyboard. You'll see a bounding box turn up around the edge of the canvas there, and that's showing us that we're going to transform all of the pixels on the layer, the photo layer, that we just copied in. Things will get even clearer if I come up to Window and down to Layers, just to bring our Layers palette up on screen, and you can see there that right at the bottom of the Layers palette we've got the background layer. That's our sheet of white blank A4 paper, and above it that's our photo, the one we just dragged in. So what we're going to do now is resize the picture, And the easiest and by far the best way of doing this is to hold down the Alt key as you do it, and that'll resize it from the center when we click and drag those corner handles. So we're just dragging it in until we've got a nice border around the edge of the image. Something around about there should be okay. And when we're happy with the sizing, we can click the tick. One thing to watch for though is when you are in free transform mode, just to make sure that that constrain proportions box is ticked up there in the options bar, otherwise you can distort the image when you're dragging. But once we've confirmed the transformation, that's given us a really nice, quick and simple border around our picture, and best of all, because it's sized to A4, it's all ready for printing. Something else to consider, of course, is that if you're using a picture that's in landscape format, you'll need to rotate your canvas before adding the picture, and that's easily done. Just come up to Image, down to Rotate, and pick one of the options here, 90 degrees left or right. So that's our simple border taken care of, and if we come up to Layer and down to Flatten Image, we're all ready to print it. But what if you want to try something a bit more creative, something that's going to sort of add something to the image instead of just setting it off in a simple way? Well, that's where the more artistic borders come in, and you'll be pleased to hear that there are plenty of them to try out on this month's CD. Let's close down our simple border though without saving. We don't need to do that. We'll bring back our original photo, and then we need to load up one of the art borders on screen just by coming up to File, down to Open, and picking any one of them you like really. I'm going to go for border 4 in this case. Click Open, and it'll pop up there on screen. The next thing that we need to do, just as we did with our simple border, is get our photo into our border document. So we'll just press Ctrl and D to deselect there for a moment, and then use the Move tool, exactly as we did last time, dragging it into the other window, holding down the Shift key to make sure it's perfectly aligned, then releasing the mouse button. We can then minimize our original photo again. This time though, we don't simply want to change the physical size of the photo. We want to use a blending mode to help it show through the original textures of the border. The one that we're going to use in this case is the screen blending mode, so just click up there next to where it says Normal and pick Screen from the list. As I do that, you can see the photo now only shows through those darker areas of the border, and we're already getting a really pleasing framing effect. We do need to resize it a little bit though, because it's a tad too large still. So we'll just zoom out again, press Ctrl and T, make sure we're on our photo layer in the Layers palette there, and then just as before, holding down the Alt key, drag in from the sides until it fits a little better. Hit the tick to confirm that, and then zooming in a little more again, we can see we get this really nice mixture of the original photo and the textures that are within the border. And once you've tried out a few of these different effects, you'll see that it's a really fun and creative way to show off your pictures. Another way that we can use these borders is by reversing them out of black, so we end up with a black border around our picture instead of a white one. Once again, this is pretty quick and simple to do. We'll just click back on the background layer in the Layers palette, then press Ctrl and I on the keyboard to invert the colours on that layer. And then, because the screen blending mode that's on layer 1 no longer applies in this case, we need to click on it and change it, this time to multiply. And there you can see we get a dramatically different effect, and I think this one actually works even better with our picture. It's quite a sort of a dark and mysterious image, and that black border is setting it off really, really nicely. Once again, it's up to Layer and down to Flatten Image, and because all of the borders on the CD are sized at A4, just as before, you're ready to print it out and show it off. Now, the one other thing that we need to mention is that if you want to use the free borders at a larger size, A3 for instance, you're going to need to resize them. It's better to do this before you add your photo, so we'll just step backwards a few times until we come back to our original picture here, and then to resize it, it's up to Image, down to Resize, and pick Image Size. And then all we need to do is make sure Resample Image is ticked at the bottom of the palette. Keep your resizing option on bicubic there at the foot of the palette too, and then come back up to width, and we'll change that to 29.7. The height automatically changes to match. We can click OK, and there very quickly we've produced an A3 sized border, from an original A4 size border. Okay, so there you have it. Just a few quick and simple ways of improving the presentation of your arty pictures. Make sure you give them a try with your own images using the templates that are on the CD. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.